The evening my marriage changed forever began with the sound of a suitcase zipper. My wife, Emily, stood in our bedroom carefully folding clothes while humming a song she always played when she was excited. She looked happier than she had in weeks, but that happiness didn't reach her eyes. "It's only a 5-day business retreat," she said without looking at me. "Daniel invited several co-workers. You're worrying for nothing." Daniel was her new colleague, charming, confident, and far too interested in my wife for my comfort. I had never been a jealous husband. During 12 years of marriage, I had trusted her completely. But something about this trip felt different. Every instinct I had warned me that she wasn't just making a mistake. She was walking directly into danger. I looked at her one final time and quietly said, "If you leave with him tomorrow, our lives will never be the same." She smiled, shook her head, called me dramatic, and walked away. I didn't know those would be the last normal words we'd ever share. The next morning, I watched from the living room window as Daniel's black SUV stopped outside our house. Emily hugged me quickly, promised she would call every evening, and climbed into the passenger seat without looking back. I stood frozen until the vehicle disappeared around the corner. The silence inside the house felt unbearable. At first, everything seemed normal. She texted me after reaching the hotel, sent a picture of the mountains, and wished me good night. But by the second day, something changed. Her replies became shorter, colder, and strangely delayed. Whenever I asked about the conference, she answered with 1 or 2 sentences before ending the conversation. The cheerful woman I knew seemed to vanish behind those brief messages. My heart whispered that she was hiding something, while my mind begged me to stop imagining the worst. I wanted to trust her, yet every passing hour made that trust feel heavier than ever. On the 4th morning, my phone rang while I was making coffee. The caller introduced himself as Ryan, Daniel's younger brother. His voice was nervous, almost frightened, after apologizing several times. He asked if Emily was still traveling with Daniel. When I answered yes, he became silent for several seconds before speaking again. He explained that Daniel had borrowed large amounts of money from relatives, emptied his apartment, resigned from work, and disappeared without telling anyone where he was going. Even worse, Ryan had recently found fake identification cards hidden inside Daniel's garage. He feared his brother was planning to escape the country under another identity. My hands began shaking. This wasn't about an affair anymore. Emily had unknowingly trusted a man whose entire life had been built on lies. Suddenly, my warning no longer sounded emotional. It sounded terrifyingly accurate. I immediately started searching for answers. My first call was to the luxury resort where Emily claimed she was staying. The receptionist politely informed me that no reservation existed under either Emily's or Daniel's name. Confused, I contacted the organizers of the business conference she had mentioned. They explained the event had been canceled 2 weeks earlier because too few people had registered. My stomach tightened. Finally, I called one of Emily's co-workers, who quietly admitted Daniel had resigned before leaving and had convinced everyone he was taking a vacation abroad. Every conversation uncovered another lie. Emily hadn't simply ignored my warning. She had believed a story that never existed. I wanted to be angry, but fear replaced every other emotion. Somewhere, the woman I loved was alone with a man whose real intentions remained completely unknown, and I had no idea where to find her. The detective handling the case listened carefully as I explained everything I had discovered during the past 24 hours. Within minutes, officers contacted the local authorities near the mountain region, where Daniel's phone had last connected to a cellular tower. While they organized an official search, I couldn't sit still waiting for updates. I packed a small bag, filled my car with fuel, and drove through the night toward the mountains. Rain pounded against the windshield as my thoughts raced faster than the speeding tires beneath me. I kept replaying our final conversation, wondering if I should have fought harder to stop her from leaving. Every mile brought more regret, but also more determination. No matter what had happened between us, I refused to abandon the woman I still loved. Just after sunrise, my phone finally rang. A detective informed me that officers had located Daniel's abandoned SUV parked near an isolated hiking trail. The driver's door was open, Luggage had been thrown across the ground, and fresh footprints disappeared into the dense forest. I reached the search area less than an hour later. Rescue teams, police officers, and volunteers spread to the mountains, while helicopters circled overhead. Every passing minute felt endless. Then a rescue worker shouted that they had discovered footprints leading toward an abandoned ranger cabin hidden deep among the trees. My heart pounded as I followed the team to the narrow trail, praying we weren't already too late. The cabin looked forgotten by the world. One officer slowly pushed the creaking wooden door open while everyone stood frozen. Inside, sitting against the wall with torn clothes, bruised arms, and tears streaming down her face, was Emily. The moment she saw me, she collapsed into uncontrollable sobs and wrapped her arms around me. She could barely speak between breaths. After calming down, she explained everything. Daniel had admitted the conference never existed. He planned to disappear using fake identities after stealing money from investors. When Emily refused to help him escape, he took her phone, threatened to abandon her in the mountains, and locked her inside the cabin. During the night, he left to collect supplies, giving her the chance to escape through a broken window. She had been hiding there ever since, hoping someone would find her. While Emily gave her statement, officers searched the surrounding forest. Late that evening, they found Daniel attempting to steal another vehicle nearly 20 miles away. After a brief chase, he was arrested without anyone being injured. Investigators later uncovered millions of dollars in financial fraud connected to his fake businesses and false identities. Emily was completely cleared after investigators confirmed she had been manipulated and knew nothing about his crimes. Although she made a terrible decision by ignoring my warning, she had never intended to betray me or help Daniel. The greatest mistake she made wasn't traveling with another man. It was believing someone she barely knew instead of trusting a husband who had spent 12 years protecting her. Returning home should have felt like the end of our nightmare, but in many ways it was only the beginning. The house looked exactly the same, yet everything between us had changed. Emily cried almost every night, blaming herself for ignoring my warning and placing both our lives in danger. One evening, she quietly admitted that Daniel had slowly earned her trust by pretending to understand her frustrations at work. She never planned to leave me or have an affair, but she had ignored countless red flags because she wanted to believe his lies instead of questioning them. Listening to her confession hurt deeply. Yet I also realized that fear, pride, and poor judgment can destroy lives far faster than hatred ever could. Months passed before life finally began to feel normal again. We attended counseling together, rebuild our communication, and slowly learn how to trust each other once more. Some wounds healed, while others remained as permanent reminders of how close we had come to losing everything. Friends often asked whether I regretted giving Emily that final warning. I always answered the same way. I didn't regret warning her. I only wish she had believed me before it was too late. Looking back, I understand that love is not about controlling someone's choices. Sometimes love is having the courage to speak the truth, even when the person you love refuses to hear it. Emily still keeps the small note I wrote before she left. Honor the words that change both our lives forever. Real danger doesn't always arrive looking dangerous.